Hey everybody, welcome to Das Beer Show. I am not Kyle Heffley. Kyle's out right now. I am actually the director of the show, Bob Walters, and we're here doing a special episode. We're talking with Miss Camden Watts, the director of the upcoming documentary Brewconomy. Thanks for talking to us, Camden.
Thanks for having me.
So people may notice, usually when I do shows like Local Film Talk or whatever, I got a beer in my hand, but this time I actually got coffee because we're doing it in the morning, which is a new one for me. But we're actually going to do this one at 10 a.m., but it's actually 11 o'clock right now. You had to push it back an hour. Go ahead, and it's kind of pretty cool. Tell everybody why we had to bump it back a little.
Yeah, thank you for being flexible. The stars aligned, and we had our test screening this morning at IMAX, and so I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get back in time and set everything up for our interview. But the test screening went really well. IMAX is just the best theater, and I feel very spoiled to premiere our film there. I tell you, the acoustics and that giant screen, that thing is beautiful.
Oh man, you are spoiled. There are not many people that get to screen, let alone, I think this will actually be the premiere, right?
It is, yeah. This is the first screening. We plan on having a lot more after that, but this is the premiere.
Yeah, not many documentaries get to premiere on IMAX, so that is really fantastic. We're really excited for you.
Thanks, I'm really excited too.
So this is, right now, it's actually April 16th, 2015. We are right in the heart of NC Beer Month.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate that we're here talking about a documentary about beer. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about Brewconomy.
So Brewconomy is actually a look at the craft beer industry's impact on North Carolina's agriculture, community, and the economy. So unlike other beer documentaries about the trials and tribulations of getting a brewery open, and it is a challenge to get one open and keep it open and make great beer, this film is actually about what craft beer is doing for North Carolina. There are so many good things happening, and even some of the most passionate beer aficionados may not know, all of the things that go on behind the scenes. So this is a really cool look at how the economy has been affected by beer. It's really cool.
So what you started, like I said, it's 2015, movie's finally coming out now. When did you start working on this, and how did you come up with the idea?
Well, we started it in 2012 were the first conversations. I was coming off of my very first documentary, Abandoned Allies, which is a pretty heavy social justice film. It's about the Montagnard people and who fought with the Green Berets during the Vietnam War. So it's about brotherly love and war and persecution in Vietnam. So it's a very heavy subject. And I was just coming off of that when I heard my co-producer, Shane Johnston, speak in Durham at the Carolina Theater. He gave a speech about beer and how it's affecting the economy and all of these amazing things that, even though I was hanging out at Full Steam and Lone Rider at the time, I had no idea any of these interesting stats were out there. And I got so excited about it. I approached him afterwards at Full Steam and I said, Shane, I know we don't know each other, but we should really make a documentary together. And I say that he very politely said, sure. Because he couldn't know me very well. I premiered Abandoned Allies in August of 2012 and got together with Shane almost immediately after that, and we started working on it. Here we are 3 years later, and we're getting ready to premiere it, and it's such an incredible feeling. It's been a long road, but it's going to be a great film. I cannot wait to share it.
Well, it sounds like your last one was pretty heavy. You needed to try something a little different, a little lighter, and local beer. That's about as much as fun as it gets.
Yeah, I have absolutely loved working on this film. We met some really incredible people, and a lot of the people who've been working on improving my home state and my hometown for as long as I've been alive. And it's so cool to now have the connection between all of these great changes that have happened and the people who were very quietly helping facilitate it. I really, I'm like still pinching myself that I got to spend time with these people and talk to them about it.
So I assume you said that, obviously a lot of documentaries deal with the trials and tribulations of opening a brewery, and you decided to focus more on the economics of the industry and, how it affects agriculture and everything. I'm sure at the time that you started filming this, there weren't a lot of hop farms in the area, and those have really popped up over the past couple of years. I assume this approach came from hearing your producer's speech. So how did you go about getting it off the ground? Who did you contact first to make it happen? And then just kind of tell us a little bit about the process of going and talking to all these breweries. I assume you went all over the state and talked to people, Asheville, Wilmington, all that. So
yeah, it all started with Shane's talk at the Carolina Theater that night, and that's in Durham. And then it started. Our conversation started at Full Steam. So it was very apropos to have the conversation about North Carolina beer at a brewery in Durham. So
actually Full Steam, because their whole focus is local, pint to plate, as they pint to plate, as they say.
Yep. Yeah. So we started those conversations in 2012, and our first day of shooting was in April 2013. That was actually at the World Beer Fest, and I had attended the World Beer Fest a long time ago.
The one in Raleigh or the one in Durham?
This was the one in Raleigh. My very first one was in Durham, at the old ball field. They have since moved it to the new ball field.
They used to do it at the old ball field. I've only been to one, but it was at the new one. I bet that was really cool to go to the one at the old ballpark.
It was awesome. It was really, really cool. Yes, that was a long time ago. So, we just started shooting in April, started at the Beer Fest. Then we started talking to the breweries, the people who run that festival. We've traveled all over Raleigh, Durham. We spent some time in Asheville. The painful part for me as a filmmaker is that you have limited funds and you can only go so far. I have joked for a long time that if anybody's willing to pay me to drink my way through the state with a film crew, I will happily do it. But with a limited budget, we only got to visit so many places so many times. So,
well, it must be nice to be able to go to places. I mean, at the time, like Wilmington only had Front Street.
Yeah.
But it must be a real blessing to have places like Asheville where they have something like 15 breweries. So you can knock out like 3 or 4 in a day.
Yeah, we did go to Asheville more than once. They are known for Beer City, USA. I think worldwide, honestly. They're just doing such amazing work. There are so many breweries there, and they all collaborate, and it's a really healthy community for beer. I actually honeymooned there 2 years ago. We decided to make our honeymoon a beercation. It was really wonderful.
I like your thinking. I like that.
Yeah, we really want to go visit some of the other beer hotspots nationwide. That's on our dream list, but we haven't quite gotten there yet.
I was in Asheville, I guess it was probably 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
We were just in there for a day. We popped into Green Man Brewing, I think. My brothers-in-law, real big baseball fans, and we happened to be vacationing up in the area. So we decided we were going to go to a minor league baseball game. There's a team in Asheville, and across the street practically was Green Man Brewing. So we went there before we went to the game because we thought, you're going to a minor league ball game. It's going to be, $8 for a Bud Light and everything. We'll go drink good craft beer across the street and then go to the game. We get to the game, and if anybody has the opportunity, if you're ever in Asheville in the summer and can go to a baseball game, all the beer there is local craft beer. And craft beer from other places. I think there's like 8 or 9 different beer stands, and only one of them had Budweiser, and everything else was microbreweries. It's, fantastic.
It's really cool, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I know the Durham Bulls have just built their beer garden and they're opening.
Last night, I think, was opening day. That was supposed to be the premiere of the brewery. I've seen on Facebook and Twitter, people said it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going this weekend, and I can't wait to check it out. Because when we were filming there, like, they had just started to talk about the beer garden, and I don't even know if construction had started at the time, but they are super supportive of local beer. It's really amazing. I love it.
Well, they got that nice bar above the first baseline up there, way at the top, that has something like 20, 25 different taps.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I'm going to a game next Thursday, so I can't wait to try the beer either. You'll have to text me, let me know how it is.
Okay, will do. Cool.
So, so over the course of, I guess, how long did you started filming in spring? Well, yeah, almost about 2 years ago now. How long did you spend filming? About a year, and then it was all editing?
Yeah, so yeah, pre-production was 2012. Shooting was 2013, and we wrapped post-production in 2014, and everything overlapped. So we were still shooting, although we were editing already, and so production overlapped with post, but most of 2014 was post-production.
So tell us a little bit about talking to the different breweries. You know, a lot of people will look at a documentary like this where you say, we went around all over the state of North Carolina and talked to a bunch of different breweries. And let us not forget, I assume you probably went to a couple farms and everything too.
We did, yep.
But, you know, you talk to a lot of different people across the state, and things are booming so much around here that even, you know, a mere 2 years ago, you know, in some places the number of breweries have doubled. You know, I mentioned Wilmington earlier only had Front Street for the longest time, and I think they've got 3 or 4 breweries down there now. Raleigh's probably gone from 15 to 35, and I think there's like 5 more to go. So tell us about some of the people you talk to, and since I'm sure it's a question you get a lot, you know, people say, well, you know, is what you talk about even still relevant now that there's so many more breweries, all these people you didn't get to talk to? You know, tell us a little about that.
Yeah, everything has changed, like you mentioned. I mean, it's so different from when we had this first conversation. There are so many more breweries, and the film, it's only a 60-minute film. There are more than 100 breweries in North Carolina now. So we don't include everyone, and that's a little painful for me as a filmmaker, but some of these didn't exist when we first started the film. The film is a lot more about its impact on those 3 things: the agriculture, the community, and the economy. So it's a lot less about the beer and more about what beer is doing for North Carolina. So we talked to, for example, we talked to the former mayor of Asheville and heard what she had to say about Beer City USA. We talked to the Secretary Gray, who represents, you know, where, like, we talk a lot about the taxes on, we have the 8th highest tax on beer in the US. So where do those taxes go? Where does that money go? We talk about that. And then we looked at a lot of the farmers, the malt houses, where are people getting their hops, where are they getting the malt, stuff like that. So we did travel a lot and talk to some of the breweries, but it's a lot more about the beer's impact. And so I hope that we can follow up and put some more clips online afterwards so people can see some of their favorite breweries, you know, that may not be included. But we'll cross that bridge after we finish the film. Yeah.
So like you say, it doesn't really matter how many breweries or how many farms are out there. You know, the process and the economics of it will, you know, theoretically more or less remain the same from when you talked about it to now. I'm curious because another phenomenon that we've seen starting up lately is brewing programs and degrees at universities and such. I think Appalachian State has a program now. I think NC State does. I know that's there's some professors and grad students that brew beer. Do they actually have a degree for that now?
I don't know if I can't speak to the degree, but I know that we did interview NC State, and they are helping a lot of the local farmers figure out if hops are viable for them.
Okay.
And then I know that Wait Tech was thinking about having a brewers program as well.
Okay.
And they were working with some of the local breweries too.
Okay.
So there
But degrees and such in brewing is a fairly recent phenomenon, especially for North Carolina. Was that a thing back when you were filming? Were you able to touch on that at all, or is that too recent a development?
That was just starting out when we first, started making this film. I think it's really taking off since then. I mean, when we started shooting in 2013, one of the breweries was starting to work with a community college, but it was at the very early stages. So we didn't really delve into that. I would love to follow up on some of these things. There's only so much you can cover in 60 minutes, and that's one of the things that we hint at, but don't really explore too much. And I find it fascinating and would love to follow up on it, but it's not too much in the film.
Right.
But
well, and it's just one of those things where, like, a lot of times with, like in a lot of budding industries, I'm sure most of the brewers that you talk to were people who had started out home brewing or in some other field, like maybe agriculture or chemistry or something like that, who had just taken a liking to brewing and kind of learned it on the job, or just happened to get a job in another brewery and learned it, again, on the job. And, it wasn't the kind of thing where somebody said, well, I came out of college with a relevant degree and went into the field, but now you can,
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm so excited about what's happening.
See the way everything's evolving.
Yeah, it's really cool. It shows that, the market it's not only there, but it's growing. And people ask a lot about the tipping point. Well, I don't think we're anywhere near it. I think this is just a tiny segment of U.S. beer sales, even now. So craft beer in the past 3 years has just really grown and grown and grown, but it's still a very small part of U.S. beer sales. And so we're not anywhere close to the tipping point, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to Kyle Heffley, our usual host, one time, and I was asking him the same thing. I said, there's so many places opening up. I think we were actually, we were talking to the guys over at Nickel Point, and of course they opened up right down the street from Sub Noir and Big Boss in the 5 Points area of Raleigh. And, this was a year ago. Now there's 2 more breweries opening in that area. Blackjack, which should be opening any day now.
Yeah.
And now Neuse River Brewing is actually right next door to Nickel Point. Interesting story, sad for me. I was talking to the guy from Neuse River, and he was telling me that they're originally going to planning to set up shop in Creedmoor, which is where I live. I could have had my own brewery, but things fell through and they ended up in downtown Raleigh. And I'm like, good for you, but oh man.
I know, and that's one of the most exciting things to me is, your local brewery is so important. Like whether they bottle or ship or distribute it, a lot of them start local and it's only available on tap and it's only available in that brewery. And then they might extend to a restaurant and then they might extend to canning, but there's still some breweries who have absolutely no intention of ever making it available outside the brewery. And I think that's awesome.
Well, and that was what the conversation I was having with Kyle, because we were over there at Nickel Point and you got these 3 breweries right there. And I said, it's kind of crowded around here. I said, where do you think the point is where some of these people can't make it anymore? And his comment was up north where he's from. I think he said he's originally from New York State. He said, up in the Northeast, you have your local neighborhood bar, not brewery, but there is a neighborhood bar. And he said, when you're talking about a big production brewery that is taking their stuff all over the Southeast and putting their stuff in grocery stores and everything, there's limited shelf space, and that's, that market might get crowded out. But if you're satisfied to, like you said, just be the local corner bar, that's making their own beer, and you serve the people, more or less within walking distance, the tipping point is a brewery in every neighborhood, and we're a long way off from that. So
I know. So my big dream is to have a brewery in my hometown. I'm originally from Washington, North Carolina, and
Hmm.
we have this beautiful downtown that's a riverfront area, and I just like really want to go home and have this awesome brewery down there because not only would I like to drink really great beer and have that view,
Hmm.
but it would be so great for for that economy, for that area. And I think it's viable and sustainable. I mean, you look at what is happening in Kinston, for example, or what happened in Winston. Foothills came into Winston and really revitalized their downtown area. I mean,
Right.
just look at where Full Steam is. That changed as well. So there's proof, there's hard evidence that having a brewery in an area draws a crowd. Most of that crowd is educated, well versed in what kind of beer they want. They hang out for a while. Um, it's really fascinating, and I hope that more of these areas in North Carolina have their own breweries to call their own. I think it's
Right.
really cool.
Well, and it brings it makes it kind of a destination. There are people whose thing is traveling to different breweries, and
Yep.
if there are towns along the way that you would normally just drive past, but you say, oh, my friend got that at the at Sam's Quick Stop, got their IPA, and I heard it's really awesome. Let's go try it on draft. That brings in a degree of tourism to the area.
Totally. And I mean, the folks who started Mother Earth have just invested in a hotel. So when you do come down there, now you have a great place to stay, and you can go scope out the brewery, go eat really great food, and have a place to stay. And so it is a tourist destination now. It's so cool. I just love
So
it.
tell us, in the process of making the documentary, it's always nice to hear interesting stories. What were some surprises along the way? What were some things that were easier than you thought they would be? What was a little harder? What caught you off guard that was kind of interesting?
Hmm. Making a documentary is a fascinating thing.
Mhm.
I
And there's
don't
no shortage of surprises along the way.
Oh yeah, I don't think any two documentaries are the same either. So in my first one, I did a lot of the work. It was a very. I don't recommend making a film this way. Let me state that. I was the producer, director, editor, and I was wearing too many hats. With this
That can
one,
be brutal.
it was brutal. I learned a lot, and I think that's a valuable experience because it taught me how to edit a documentary. And on Brewconomy, I had a dedicated editor, which is huge to me. I mean, editing, I can sit down and edit it, but it's not my strong point. It's not what I want to be doing every day. And so having a dedicated editor meant that I could be doing other things
Mhm.
and serving the film in different ways.
Well, and especially in the digital age, and to call back to our conversation about the IMAX screening earlier, um, there are so many specs and codecs and
Yeah.
ways of doing this, that, and everything else. I mean, you have to be an expert in that stuff. I mean, if you were the editor, there'd probably be no way you could have gotten the thing in proper IMAX format.
Well, we did premiere my first film in IMAX, so it's
Oh,
possible.
hey, cool.
But I am by no means meant to be an editor for the rest of my life. That proved that point for sure.
Okay.
So, like you said, having somebody that is a dedicated editor makes a huge difference. So for this film, I had a bigger team. They're amazing, absolutely amazing. And one of the challenges for me was getting better at communicating the vision and doing that consistently over the course of 3 years. You as a person change over the course of 3 years. The community changes over the course of 3 years. Even your vision for your film can change.
Right.
So it's a huge challenge. But
Especially with a documentary, because you set out knowing having an idea of what you want to do, but at the end of the day, it all depends on what not just the subject matter of the interviews you get, but the actual quotes and everything. So you may go into a place thinking what you want to get from this farmer or from this brewer, and what they tell you is something completely different, and then you have to reshape, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not easy,
Mhm.
but it's part of the challenge that I love. Like, one of the joys is finding the story. I confess that I used to want to be a journalist, and so but I always loved film, and this allows me to do both. You start with a hypothesis, for example, and then like try to prove or disprove or let the story lead you, and it's a weird but wonderful process.
Right. So, so you got your movie,
Yeah,
and it's you've got a trailer out right now.
we do.
Where people can go to the Brewconomy website to see it. Go ahead and give a plug for the website and tell people about the trailer.
Yeah, so we released our trailer recently, and I am so in love with it. It just gets me going. I love it so much. It's a great representation of the film.
You said that's what you did your test screening with this morning, and it made you want a beer at 9 o'clock in the morning.
It did. It really did. Yeah, so the trailer is available at brewconomy.com. And we're all over social, so Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's all Brewconomy, all the same handle. But the film will premiere at IMAX on April 26th, and it is sold out. So if you missed your chance to get tickets, we will show it statewide in 2015. We're still working on additional screenings so that people can see it, have a conversation afterwards, and have a pint if we can work that out as well.
And you're not just talking about like little festival screenings and stuff. You're actually going to try to get it in the theaters, right?
We are. So this first screening is at IMAX in Raleigh. What would make me really happy is a chance to show it in Asheville, since a lot of folks in Asheville are in the film. But we've been invited to show it in Wilmington, Greensboro, Winston. So we're working that out. It takes a lot of time and effort to get those screenings going. But the live screenings are what makes it an experience. If you have the screening, you can have a pint afterwards and listen to a Q&A. And that's the part about indie filmmaking that I really love. And it mirrors the beer industry. It's a homegrown topic with, local peeps. So I just love the local thing where you get to have a live screening. Now, that being said, if you miss all of the live events, we will have it available digitally. We'll have it on Vimeo on demand, and we're looking at producing Blu-ray so you can buy a copy of it. So all of that is coming. It's just not out there just yet.
Well, that's really cool. It's cool to see a documentary on the local beer scene here in North Carolina, and I'm really happy for you for all the success. An IMAX screen, that's just amazing. Congratulations again on that.
Thank you. We're so excited.
And hopefully in some more theaters to get it out there. And I think people will be really excited to see this one. So congratulations again, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Anybody who wants to see the trailer and learn a little more about the documentary, the website is brewconomy.com. Like you said, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. We'll put links to that stuff in the show notes. And everyone who has an interest in craft beer, which is a growing community of folks, should check it out. From what I've seen of it, it's really, really interesting and a pretty thorough look at the industry. So, thank you again for talking to us. Hopefully, we can get you on Local Film Talk to talk about a little more of the nitty-gritty of actually making the film. Maybe get some of your other crew members in there. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So good luck. Happy NC Beer Month, and I hope the IMAX screening goes great for you.
Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate you doing this interview and sharing it with your friends. It's very exciting. Thank you so much.
Always happy to help people out. You take care.
You too.